I am so sorry I'm late, everyone. What's going on? Welcome to a 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time edition of the Winged Eagle podcast. There was some breaking news kind of happening later on in the day, earlier on in the day today. You guys know what that is, and I figured I was going to have to open up this week's podcast with that. So I wanted to reorganize my notes and get ready properly. So I delayed the podcast 30 minutes. Hopefully that did not mess up any of your schedules and who those of you who like to hang out with me on Saturday afternoons or evenings, depending on where you live. But I'm up here now, and we're here to talk about a lot. We're going to get into the Tessa Blanchard controversy, obviously. We'll also discuss this past week of TV, talk a little bit about Raw and Brock Lesnar, discuss AEW and NXT, both shows that I found to be kind of mediocre, but a really big win in the ratings for AEW this week. We'll discuss last night's SmackDown, preview the Royal Rumble card, and touch on some news and notes in the world of wrestling as well. And that is pretty much it. But I have some information for you to open up the podcast with first, and we'll get into that in just a second. I want to make sure I can be seen and heard. We're looking good. Awesome to see a bunch of you in here already. Hello to Thales and Toxic and McLean and Big Mike, Too Cold Scorpio, Viper, Mr. E, JJ, Ernie, Edgar, No, Beetle, Pal, How Wheezy, good to see you, Luna, Ben, Big J, Xander, Jet the Hawk, Steven, myself, Chat Site Forums, Yo Keegs. Right on. All right, we're all here. Hopefully it'll be a good audience today. By the way, I released a classic pay-per-view review yesterday. If you guys want to head on over to my channel and check that out, Royal Rumble 1990 review, give it a view and give it a like. I think it's like under 1,000 views, which is usually to be expected with some of my older pay-per-view reviews. The views usually don't get cooking, for a little while. So if you can go give that video some help, give it a like, give it some traction, I'd appreciate that. And I've got another Royal Rumble video, classic Royal Rumble review, I should say, coming up about a week from tomorrow. So keep a lookout for that. I also have a scheduling update for you guys. I made a decision last night for something that I want to do this Monday. Now, as many of you know, I'm heading off to the Jericho Cruise. As a matter of fact, my flight leaves a week from tomorrow. So this coming Monday is really going to be my last Monday night where I do a Raw review. So what I decided is, since I've temporarily suspended my live watch-alongs on Mondays and I intend to bring those back for like WrestleMania season, let's bring it back 1 week early. And this coming Monday, I'm going to do a live watch-along of Monday Night Raw, just like I used to do, prior to taking a little break from that a few weeks ago. And I'll be up here for the entire 3 hours. We'll watch the show together, and all proceeds, all super chat donations, and whatever I make off of the ad revenue, we're going to donate to the Australian Red Cross to aid in the relief and the disaster relief efforts there from those insane wildfires that is just ravaging that country. Now, wildfires is something that I know a little bit about living here in Southern California. Those things are a constant threat, and I have a lot of sympathy for them. So I thought maybe we could do our part here on the channel and try to help out our friends down under with all of the horrific situation that they're in down there. So that is the plan for this Monday. Come join me on the channel. We'll watch Raw and we'll donate to a good cause. I also want to shout out my patrons before we get going on the Tessa Blanchard news. As always, got to give these guys some love because you guys keep the channel rolling. We got a couple of new patrons this week as well that I want to acknowledge. But Barry MK400, thank you, man. As always, Blake Moran, Claudio Clavadetcher, Domanian Elwell Sr., Daniel Rodriguez, Jordan Karg, John Riffle, John Rediford, Josiah Blevins, Keith Hammonds, Keith Salyers, King Daddy Dev, I think your name is Devlin. You are going to be on the Jericho Cruise. I will see you in about a week, my friend. Thank you for your new patronage. Michael Cuomo, as always, thank you. Mr. Steve, Nathan Walker, Ryan Y., another new $20 per month pledge patron. Thank you very much. And Steve Myers and Zach, the Double Z TV. Thank you, guys. You are the best. Let's talk about Tessa first. Now, you want to talk about horrible timing. My God. So I kind of had my notes ready for this podcast. I thought it was going to be a light episode. I'm like, shit, we don't have much to talk about. The news is light. AEW and NXT was mediocre. SmackDown was skippable. What am I going to discuss today? Well, the wrestling drama gods dropped a beauty in our laps here. Tessa Blanchard, who is 1 day away from challenging for the Impact title tomorrow at Hard to Kill against Sami Callihan. She's been involved in, quite frankly, what has been this great feud. Now, I don't give Impact a lot of my time. There's just too much wrestling. I just can't keep track of it all. And I've never really been a big Impact fan, but from what I've been gathering from all of you and the few clips and bits and pieces I've seen online, this angle seems to be over. And Tessa is really, she's breaking barriers in a way more than anyone's done since China. as far as really getting in there and mixing it up with the men. And some of the brawls that I've seen between Callahan and Tessa have been pretty intense, and I'm surprised that they're going that far. But at some point, somebody had to, and I think this could be potentially history-making, and a lot of fans don't seem to be resisting it. They seem to be into it and giving the entire angle and Tessa's entire run in 2019 a lot of praise. So here she is on the doorstep of potentially making some pretty big history, actually winning a world title, which who knows, she might be booked to win that tomorrow. Not sure if she's going to be booked to win that now. And as far as anybody who might be saying, oh, this is somebody that achieves a certain height and then the fans try to tear him down or, anything like that, this is not really like that. This isn't like a cancel culture type of thing. Tessa Blanchard did this to herself in a tweet today. And I'm actually going to head over here. I've got the page pulled up over on Fightful. Shout out to Robert and Sean for posting all these tweets on the website over there so I didn't have to search for them myself. But this whole thing was started by a Tessa Blanchard tweet where she says, and I quote, "Hey women, try supporting one another. Good things happen." Or I'm sorry, cool things happen. So that's what she said, and immediately the floodgates open. And the first one to say something, I believe, was Allison Kay. She quotes the tweet and says, "Remember when you spat in a black woman's face and called her the N-word in Japan? Was that you supporting women?" The audacity of this tweet. Okay, holy shit. So that's one thing. That's one person coming out and, saying something. You can't really judge that. Oh, who knows? Maybe they don't like each other. Maybe there's some drama. Maybe there's something we don't know about there. It's one person's word against another person's word, and judge it for what it is. But no, within minutes, you've got everybody chiming in on this thing. Chelsea Green, who just made her NXT debut or re-debut on Wednesday, and a new manager and the whole deal. She posts a GIF from SNL saying, "I remember that," insinuating that she was there, saw the whole thing happen. And then she quotes the tweet and says, "You've consistently put down, bullied, and belittled countless female coworkers, including me. Is that support?" So, she's putting her 2 cents in. Then you have Priscilla Kelly, who also chimes in. I think she might be on the cruise as well next week. She says, "Remember publicly putting me down on Twitter last year for something that didn't involve you whatsoever, then continuing to drag my name to other people for it. Pepperidge Farm remembers. You should probably delete this tweet." And then we've got, I don't know who this is, LeBlack Rose from Puerto Rico. Apparently this might be the person that Tessa allegedly called the N-word to in Japan. She quotes the tweet. She quotes Allison Kay's tweet and says, "Thank you so much. That story, yes, that happens on January." This tweet is poorly spelled. "That happens on Japan 2017. If Tessa Blanchard do not remember it, can I?" I think she means I can. "I am not a mean girl with any coworkers around the world. Be kind of racist. It is not ridiculous." Okay, that's kind of not readable, but she's basically saying, yeah, that was me. I remember it. She did it to me. Isla Dawn of NXT UK also quoted the tweet as, "Someone who experienced your bullying firsthand, received regular verbal abuse, was spat on, had rumors spread about me, dealt with multiple attempts by you to blacklist me from other companies, plus more. I just pray you now follow your own advice." Tania quotes Allison Kay's tweet as well. "I like to think people can change over time, but I confirm the bad behavior and non-supportive attitude in Japan. I was there." So just a slew of female wrestlers immediately came forward corroborating this initial claim. And this does not look good for Tessa. It's really hard to have sympathy for her here because the stories of her backstage attitude is not new. We've heard these before, and apparently she's really gotten better since her run on Impact, probably because she's experiencing a great deal of success right now. She's cleaned up her act. Apparently she's been just a joy to work with. She's got a great feud here with Callahan that's really got people interested, and she's creating buzz, and she's had a phenomenal year. It was just voted Impact Wrestler of the Year or something like that. So it's been a great year, and here she is 24 hours away from a title match, and she shoots herself in the foot. So that's a shame. Now, I don't know, this initial claim here by Allison Kay saying that she actually spat in a black woman's face and called her the N-word, just the thought of that was almost hard for me to believe. I'm like, what kind of a person does that? To spit in someone, like, to me, that was almost so absurd, it couldn't have been true. I'm like, okay, maybe Allison Kay's exaggerating. Would anybody be that fucking stupid to do something like that? But then when all of these women, like a wave, came forward and said, yeah, no, that's the way she is, couldn't be worse timing, because you can't, there's really not, I know there's two sides to every story, obviously, but that means all of these women would have to lie. All of these women would have to have some sort of personal vendetta against her and are all are texting each other and saying, hey, let's all go on Twitter and just drag her and just spread lies about her. That's what would have to be happening here. And what do you think's more likely? Confirmation that the stories we've heard about Tessa's attitude are true, or all these women are getting together and creating a conspiracy against her? As my cat has got a ball. I usually put the toys away, man. Hopefully that will not drive me nuts. So which one of those two do you think is true? So this sucks. I mean, this is just bad timing, because Tessa's really been on a tear. And she, like I said, she might be, she might have been booked to win the title tomorrow. I don't know what Impact's going to do. Wouldn't want to be them. Wouldn't want to be them trying to scramble and say, okay, our original plan, whatever that might be tomorrow, doesn't need to be changed or not. Now, if she's slated to lose, no big deal, whatever. But if they had planned for her to win the title and they now decide not to, oh my God, imagine how she's going to feel saying, if I just wouldn't have fucking tweeted that, I'd be world champion right now. Karma's a bitch. What do y'all think? Let me check over here to the chat. No, it's a little tiny, I think it's a piece. It's not a blue ball. It's a little piece to his toy that's just rattling. It's got a little bell in it. Anyway. Seahawks or Packers tomorrow? Oh, man. I don't really care. Let me see if there's any super chats. I think I saw one. How Wheezy? Thank you, man. Thanks for the $1.99. Good to see you in here, moderating and keeping things together as always. Worst WrestleMania match of all time? Jesus, off the top of my head. Oh, man, I don't know. There's a lot of them. Can I answer that in the next Q&A? Remind me before the end of the podcast here. When I get to the end, I'll try to come up with something for you. Because I'm trying to think of those early WrestleMania days. WrestleMania 1 and 2 didn't have very good matches. Maybe King Kong Bundy and SD Jones. It was like 10 seconds. It sucked. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Sam. Like, the reason she got called out for it is because it's hypocritical. It really is. For her to say, hey, women, try supporting one another. I'm like, well, that's not what you did. There is no way you can spin this and have sympathy for Tessa. I'm sorry. There's just no way. She did this to herself. She tweeted something. She tried to, give advice. She tried to give the opposite advice of what she's always done. And that's just stupid. That's like a KKK member going online and tweet and telling everybody to not be racist. It's don't make no sense. So she deserved to get called out. She should know that if she's got like a sketchy ass past and she's rubbed people the wrong way, the last thing you want to do is open yourself up like that. It's not like these women just went online and just started spreading shit about her and just started, hey, let's just attack her today. She's got a title match tomorrow. Let's fuck her world up. No, Tessa did this. Tessa opened up the door. I saw somebody on Twitter say that she opened up the door and got power bombed right through it. And that's exactly what happened. So should have known better, basically. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. But as far as like my opinions go on it, I don't have a ton of sympathy for her. I've always had just a raw spot, like a really disdain and dislike for bullies. I don't like it in schools and I don't like it in the workplace. Some of the bosses I've had to work for in the past and just kind of the way they talk to people. And I've made a vow to myself to never be like that, to never be a hard ass jerk off. And I think some people, and you see it a lot in wrestling too, with all of the year, you hear about JBL and all sorts of other wrestlers that just destroy and just humiliate and torment rookie wrestlers, the hazing and all the things that used to go on back in the day, and how some people were ran completely out of the business just because of mean, cruel shit. And now we're getting to a time in society where that's really not cool. That's not going to fly anymore. You're not allowed to take a shit in someone's luggage. I'm talking to you, X-Pac. You can't do that anymore. So I've just never really liked anybody that like tries to push someone around or talk down to somebody. Like I won't let a human being, no matter, even if they're 3 times my size, nobody is going to talk down to me. Like I just refuse. So I would not be the type of person that would survive in an independent wrestling scene. Because if I went into a locker room and I was told that I absolutely must shake everybody's hand, and if I don't, I'm a scumbag piece of shit that's going to be blacklisted from wrestling and going to be, bullied and pushed around because of that. No, I'm not going to follow your stupid ass rules. I'm going to respect everybody, but I'm also going to be my own self, my own person. I'm very Rob Van Dam-ish in that way. He's the same type of way. CM Punk is a little bit like that too, except I'm not crazy like Punk is turning out to be on Twitter last week. So I just don't like any of those stories. So whenever this comes out about anyone, whether it's Tessa Blanchard being called out for being a bully or being a racist, or whether it's Joey Styles punching out JBL on an overseas plane, I like those stories, and I don't have any sympathy when these people, get what's coming to them. I'm always a big believer. Like my dad taught me at like 5 years old, what goes around comes around, and it's probably been the one thing I've always lived by because it's really, really true. It really is true in all aspects of life. And you guys have probably experienced the same thing. So that's what I believe in. Karma, and what goes around comes around. And it came around on Tessa Blanchard. Now, I also think that people can change. I don't think Tessa Blanchard should be forever ostracized from pro wrestling. Even Hulk Hogan has got back on TV. So if any of this is true, I think with, the right career path and the right attitude, and the right apology and things like that, people can change, and you should be able to allow them to change. So I don't think this is something that should completely ruin her career. I think she should feel bad for her past behavior and mistakes and should pay for it, but also move on kind of thing. I don't want in 10 years, if she remains squeaky clean for 10 years and has a great career full of respect and everybody sings her praises, 10 years from now, we're still looking back and talking about that one incident. We shouldn't be doing that. We should allow her the chance to improve, get better, and change. And apparently that's what she's done for the past year. It's just all this shit now is coming back on her, and goes to show you shouldn't be like that, because look what happens. If you're a bully, if you're a dick, if you treat people like shit, and then you're on the doorstep of success, it can all come back, and you can be torn down at the last minute, and that's what she's looking at right now. So anyway, that's my opinion there. Social media has killed everything, not just wrestling. In a lot of ways, social media has made wrestling more fun, because I would have loved to have a Twitter in 1994 or 1995, hell, in the late 80s. That would have been fun as shit. But it would have just meant that wrestling would have been ruined far earlier than it was, and we might have not have gotten the Attitude Era. But yeah, social media ruins everything, probably even worse than it does wrestling. So obviously, I was opening up with wrestling news here. I don't have a whole lot of other wrestling news written down, just a couple of news and notes here. We also have TakeOver Blackpool, by the way, is also tomorrow, correct? And who's that headline by? Walter and Coffee? Haven't paid much attention to NXT UK. Poor NXT UK and Impact and Ring of Honor. Those are the ones I, for the most part, ignore. I just don't have time for them, but I try to keep track of everything else as best I can. So TakeOver Blackpool is tomorrow, along with Hard to Kill. Becky Lynch's contract apparently is still up in the air. There were some reports that she did sign a new deal, but she called out Meltzer for misreporting her new deal, or whatever he said. She signed $1 million a year deal or whatever, and she said, bullshit, haven't signed anything. But Becky Lynch, after winning the title in the main event of WrestleMania and being champion for nearly a year, I'm not really concerned about her contract situation. She will resign. There's absolutely no doubt about it. She ain't going anywhere. And there was also a report today that WWE is planning on holding an international pay-per-view on February 20th. There's no date and location for this. I don't even think there's a name for this thing, so I don't know if this is going to be a network-only special. Well, I guess all pay-per-views are a network-only special, or how serious they're going to treat this thing. If this is going to be like a Starrcade type of event where it just doesn't mean anything, you can skip it, it's meaningless, or if it's going to have real implications heading into WrestleMania. But the last thing I think WWE needs right now is another pay-per-view in the middle of WrestleMania season. I already think there's one too many. I'll submit to Fastlane, fine. If you want to continue to have that stupid pay-per-view with that stupid name, whatever. But can we at least can we at least eliminate the Elimination Chamber, or eliminate one of the two? I just think you need one pay-per-view in between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So now we already have two. Now you're adding a third, an international one? No, man, too much. Way too much. Don't know where that's going to be. Don't care. Probably won't even watch it. I did review Raw this past week, so if you want to hear my thoughts on what we saw on Monday, you can check back. You can check my channel. I don't think I put any links up in the cards today, did I? Did I forget to do that? Yeah, I did. So there's nothing in the upper right of the screen there. I apologize for that. But over on my channel, you've got my Raw review from Monday. If you want to See what I had to say about that? Not much. The only, pretty much the biggest news coming out of that, because the Big Show return was a complete, just kind of sigh, like who cares? But the big news out of Raw was Brock Lesnar entering the Royal Rumble as champion. Not sure what to make of that. We discussed a lot. I don't think it's the Saudi Arabia one, Austin. I think Saudi Arabia is going to be after WrestleMania. So I think this February one is a different one. Yeah. International incident, that would be funny. So anyway, Brock Lesnar announced on Raw that he's going to be entering, or Paul Heyman announced for him that he's going to be entering the Royal Rumble. Not only is he entering the Royal Rumble as champion, he's entering at number 1. He wants to conquer everybody. And to me, this can go a lot of different ways. A lot of fans were upset about this. This is bullshit. Why is Brock not defending the title? And I immediately thought that was okay. I understand that Brock holding that title hostage sucks, but look at what we're looking at here. Brock Lesnar's champion. He's probably going into Mania as champion, right? So if he is, do we want him beating somebody? What's the point? Do we want him beating another top star, getting a match with McIntyre, getting a match with Kevin Owens, or somebody else like that, and then beating him? Is that what we want? For them to be Braun Strowmanized by this guy? I don't. So if he's going to keep the title till Mania anyway, I can let that slide. The fact that he's not defending the title at the Rumble. Whatever. He's in the Rumble now, and this presents a really interesting situation for him because whatever he does in the Rumble will have WrestleMania implications. One of those things could be Cain Velasquez, and that could be setting up a match, but I really don't want that to happen. I don't want it to be Brock and Velasquez. I don't want it to be Brock and Tyson Fury or any stupid match like that at WrestleMania. If they're going to do Brock and Cain Part 2, which they're going to do, I would much rather have that be in Saudi Arabia, not at WrestleMania. So whatever Brock does at the Rumble, whether he lasts till the end and gets tossed out or whatever, I expect him to get tossed out, because what's the point of him winning it? The winner is supposed to challenge the champion. He's going to challenge himself, or is he going to challenge Bray Wyatt and go for both belts? They're not going to do that either. So I think this is probably just a way to set up whatever he's going to do at WrestleMania. So it would be cool, if somebody in the Rumble that's already advertised for it, like a Drew McIntyre or like a Kevin Owens, tosses him out and that leads to the match somehow. I don't know. But to me, this has like Velasquez written all over it, and I'm a little bit worried. And I don't think Brock is going to win it. I just don't think he'll make it that long, especially entering at number 1. I don't know what the point of this is for him to wrestle an hour like this. I saw one fan say that it's in Brock's contract not to wrestle an hour. Brock does not give a shit how long he wrestles. It's like, I think people just need to draw the line on where Brock's laziness really is, because Brock will always do business. He will always work hard. He will always put people over if he has to and if he's told to. And his matches are always good, and he, does his thing. He works hard out there. So I know he's just throwing German suplexes all day long, but he's not going to refuse to wrestle a long period of time if they want him to. I just believe he'll do business. The only story we've heard that on the contrary is the match with Ambrose at WrestleMania, where he just didn't seem into it. But other than that, I think Brock will always, do what he has to do. But him winning and going that long seems kind of silly. Brock is not really a 60-minute wrestler to begin with. So if he's going to go that long, I'd hate to see him make it all the way to number 30 and then get tossed out. I'd rather him just get tossed out earlier than that and let us have a fun Rumble without the whole thing being centered around Lesnar. And I believe it's going to be the 4th time. I thought it was the 3rd. Somebody corrected me on my Royal Rumble 1990 video. I mentioned that the only 2 times a WWE champion has entered the Rumble were the first 2 that were on pay-per-view, 89 and 90. Randy Savage in 89 and Hogan in 90. And here Brock is doing it in 2020. But somebody reminded me just a few years ago, Roman Reigns had to defend the title in the Royal Rumble. So that counts. So it's really only been 4 times, with Hogan being the only guy to ever actually win it. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see whatever you guys think, your predictions are for the Rumble and how you think Brock is going to do and what it's going to lead to. I'm willing to be optimistic that this might, in the long run, maybe not the short run, but in the long run, be better than him just having a title match against some random challenger. This might be better because it might be part of a bigger story. So it'll make things interesting in the Rumble, and it does present some interesting face-offs. If Brock remains in there for a long period of time, he can come to face with a lot of other talent. So we'll see. We'll see what happens at the Rumble. I just hope that Otis versus Brock Lesnar, exactly. Something like that would be fun. What if Goldberg entered the Royal Rumble. There's a lot of talk of Edge making an appearance in the Royal Rumble as well. So if we're going to have some fun entrants, Brock should be out of there by then. I pitched the idea on Monday. Maybe you put Kofi in there. What if Brock does make it to the end? Can you imagine Brock being in that ring for an hour? I can't. But if he makes it to the end, and let's say Kofi comes out at number 30, and there's just a ripe for the picking Brock Lesnar right there, spent, sweaty, maybe a little bit bloody, somehow survived these 28 men, and here comes Kofi and kicks him over the top rope and wins, and then Kofi, I want to challenge you at WrestleMania. I would be into that, and then you can tie in Cain Velasquez there. Then maybe in the WrestleMania match, Velasquez comes out, surprises Brock, distracts him, Kofi beats him for the title, and then they do the deal where Brock is so mad that he is just interested in getting revenge on Velasquez, and they do the rematch in Saudi Arabia. That would be my ideal scenario. I'd much prefer Kane and Brock wrestling in Saudi Arabia than at WrestleMania. So I'd be into that as well. So they could have some fun with it. Let's just hope, keep our fingers crossed that they don't make this stupid and they don't make it suck, but I have a feeling they will. Chris follows fads. Thank you for the $5, dude. I appreciate it. Do you think they'll do an injury angle mid-Rumble to take Brock out without getting eliminated? Then he comes back near the end. They could. They've done that before. There's been lots of times where people have left the Rumble only to come back. 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Jesus. That Rock and Mankind match, if you were born on that day, you can fucking drink now. Man. I'm this close to having to wear diapers, man. I'm getting old. Anyway, that year, Austin and McMahon were fighting in the bathroom. They were all over. McMahon was sitting at the commentary table doing commentary, wasn't he? And he was still technically in the Royal Rumble, and he gets in and tosses Austin out in the end. So anything can happen. That's definitely a possibility because apparently there are no rules in that. I remember in the early days of the Rumble, though, they did say, Gorilla said it, that if you miss your cue or, if the buzzer goes off and you don't get out there, you have until the next competitor to make it out there. And if you don't, that means you're eliminated. But I think once you're in, you can do whatever the hell you want as long as you make it in. That is it, I think, for the wrestling news and Raw. There's nothing else I want to really talk about on Raw. You guys can go back to Monday. The rest of the show was just, okay, it was what it was. But I do want to talk about AEW and NXT this week, and we'll close with SmackDown. Before we get out of here. Or should we start with SmackDown next? Yeah, let's talk about last night's SmackDown before we get into NXT and AEW, because I do want to give you the updated Royal Rumble card as well, and then we'll backtrack and talk about the Wednesday Night Wars. Hogan tosses Brock. Man, I did see that picture of Hogan. It was kind of weird seeing him with the white beard like that. He looked like an old version of his 1986 self or whatever. Very cool picture of him, working out. He claims he wants to get back in the ring. He claims he wants to have one more match at WrestleMania. How can that happen? This guy can't walk. That ramp, there's no way he'd make it. They had to drive his ass down there. I don't know what he is thinking. Hogan, I would love, for you to have a last hurrah and all that. And I can understand that, you want that for yourself, but come on. If he's going to have a match, what is that going to look like? And he wants to work with Vince, apparently? That's, oh my God, please, no. Jeez, that match would make me break a hip. God, I don't want to see that. So I hope that Hogan does not make an appearance in the Rumble, and I don't think he can, because the thing about Hogan is he would have to win it, because he can't be tossed over the top rope. If somebody throws Hulk Hogan over the top rope of a wrestling ring, he will die. So it's either Hogan wins or dies. Our choice. So let's just keep him out of the Rumble altogether. Let's move on to last night's SmackDown now, because I caught most of this, and I just want to stay on the main roster subject since we just finished up talking about Raw and the Royal Rumble, and I want to preview the Rumble here in a minute. SmackDown was an okay show. I didn't think it was bad. I asked you guys on Twitter, is it worth watching? What's going on? And a lot of people said it sucked. It's skippable. And it wasn't a great show by any means, but there was a couple of interesting things on there, including John Morrison on Miz TV. That opened up the show. So Morrison returned. We saw him a couple of weeks ago. We know he's back, and he was going to be the Miz's guest this week. The Miz lost to Kofi last week. He's kind of gone heel, kind of being broken by Bray Wyatt. He's really messed with the Miz's head and started to change the Miz. And John Morrison on Miz TV said that he was all set to debut at the Royal Rumble, which is kind of funny because a lot of fans were upset that the way he reappeared on TV was that he opened the locker room door and that was it. What a waste. Should have hit us with a surprise. Well, we knew he was back. Not only was it rumored for months, it was confirmed on WWE Backstage. They announced it. It was all over the website, all over social media. If he came back in the Royal Rumble, don't you think that would be ridiculously predictable since we already know he's back with the company and that would just be the perfect place? I can give WWE a pass on this one. To me, it wasn't a big deal, but Morrison did say that he was set to re-debut at the Rumble with a brand new music video and entrance music and the whole deal. But after what he was seeing happening to The Miz on TV, he decided to come back early to help out his friend. And it's funny, too, because as soon as Morrison said that, I was like, I wonder if they will tie in his last match. Now, you guys have to help me, but am I misremembering? But wasn't his last match with The Miz, and I remember some sort of spot on the stage where The Miz laid him out, and that was the end of Morrison in WWE. So they didn't end things on the best of terms in kayfabe as far as the relationship goes. So for him to automatically want his friend back now, or come back to help his friend, I mean, I guess they've had 9 years to patch things up. It's just, I wonder if maybe Morrison's playing him, and eventually it's a heel turn by Morrison, and he attacks The Miz, and it's revenge for what happened 8 years ago. I don't know if they'll even go there. I would like to see the duo reunited. I think they were great together back in the day. I think they could even be funnier now. And The Miz, as much as I want to see him, get a shot at the world title again, because I think he's greatly improved in the past few years, this might be a better thing for him because the two of them could be really entertaining and they could really help SmackDown. So I hope they stay together, and I hope they kind of, they're just a little bit, they mix who they are now with who they used to be when they were a team, because they could be very entertaining, and I think that could be good. They could be tag champions. They could go far with that. And they need a new entertaining team, especially if the New Day splits up one day. So the New Day, speaking of them, comes out. Kofi and Big E. Kofi and The Miz go back and forth on the mic a little bit. That leads to a match that The Miz wins with the skull-crushing finale. So a little 50-50 booking there, but, what can you do? You're not going to have Miz drop both matches to him. It's kind of what WWE does. We had a Firefly Funhouse segment up next, and what's going on? You guys have to help me. Am I missing something? Are you noticing the screen isn't as clear? The screen is a little distorted. It almost looks like it has some CRT TV lines across the Funhouse. Has that been a thing lately, or is that just something that I've missed? I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's as clear. So maybe wonder why that's happening. And I'm wondering if every time there's a chink in his armor, or somebody, injures or hurts the Fiend, that maybe the Funhouse and the overall presentation of the character deteriorates a little bit some way. Am I reading way too much into that? But Bray is on the screen and saying that he just wanted to remind Daniel Bryan of their past, and they do a bunch of, smash cuts showing the history of the two. And then he said he wanted to change Daniel Bryan, and they showed him ripping out his hair. And now that Daniel Bryan's trying to take the Universal title, he just wants to hurt Daniel Bryan. So that's pretty much all he said in that. Daniel Bryan then gets interviewed a little bit later on backstage and says that he's been changed for the better. And then the Fiend is going around terrorizing everybody and changing everybody and breaking everybody, but he can't be broken, and that he knows that the Fiend can be hurt and the Fiend can be beat. And later on, so did they go to a break here? I think they went to a break. They show Ramblin' Rabbit. Oh, no, they don't. Daniel Bryan is still back there. It's in the same interview. They've got the screen behind them where they do all the interviews. Ramblin' Rabbit comes up on the screen. He's like, "Yo, Daniel, I got a big secret. I know how you can beat the Fiend. He can be beat, you're right, and I know how to do it." And right before he can tell Daniel Bryan, this is so crazy, right before he can tell Daniel Bryan what the big secret is, Bray Wyatt grabs him, shows up, grabs him from behind, and kills him, apparently. Then they show Daniel Bryan in the locker room where a present is waiting for him, and he opens it up, and it's the bloody corpse of Ramblin' Rabbit. And when when Wyatt grabbed a hold of the rabbit, he said, "Snitches get stitches," which was pretty funny. So apparently there is some secret, and we've speculated on that ourselves here on the show because we've talked about that red light. We've talked about the mask. Something maybe needs to be behind. Something needs to be the source of this power of Bray Wyatt to be impervious to pain and not being able to be harmed or hurt or damaged in any way. And now that Daniel Bryan is exposing a little bit of that, and one of his little funhouse playmates is threatening to spill the beans, and apparently this rabbit never dies because he died like 100 times. He's like Kenny. Eventually, we're going to know. And I speculated that maybe it was the lights. You know, at what point does one of the Fiend's opponents go over to the red lights or wherever the switch is or whatever they're doing and destroy them? You know, just pull the plug on the red lights. You know, opening up the regular house lights there, exposing Bray Wyatt or the Fiend, maybe like a gremlin when they're exposed to sunlight and they fucking melt. So maybe it's the red light, you know, like the yellow sun gave Superman his powers or something along those lines. So the light could have something to do with it. And we've seen some unmaskings recently on TV with Andrade pulling off the mask of Rey Mysterio. Maybe somebody unmasks Bray Wyatt in a similar way and just rips the fucking thing off the Fiend. And that completely kills his powers. And then his face is exposed. Even though we already know what he looks like, it would still be cool and eerie to see him get unmasked as the Fiend. So in the future, I don't think Daniel Bryan's going to be the one to take the belt off of the Fiend, but I think he's going to get closer than anyone has. I think at the Royal Rumble, he's going to injure him enough to where it might expose a couple of his weaknesses, and then maybe by the time we get to WrestleMania, it might be time for him to drop it, but we can talk about that another time. You know, we'll see how this all goes, because, you know, you can definitely make an argument that he could keep the title beyond WrestleMania, or he should keep the title beyond WrestleMania. And if we get to WrestleMania and this thing is not worn off, and the Fiend is still going strong, and WWE is still enjoying the success they're getting out of this character, don't think that they're incapable of having him win. They've done this before. You know, everybody thought Roman Reigns was going to beat Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania. And Brock walked out with the title, and Roman laid in a pool of his own piss and vomit. So it's not a given that it's automatically going to be Bray Wyatt dropping the belt or Roman Reigns winning the title again. If WWE sees there's money to be made and there's mileage left, I think they'll continue it. I do. But if they feel it's kind of ran as much course as it's going to run, or they can't do any more with it, maybe they take the belt off of them and move them in a different direction. So I don't know. It could go a lot of different ways, but I think we're starting to get some hints now that eventually people are going to chop away at this armor and get down to the real Bray and be able to beat him, you know, for the title at some point, because he can't destroy people forever, although, you know, The Undertaker did. If they wanted to turn him into something like that, you know, don't forget The Undertaker was a very scary, ominous heel that was zombie-like, impervious to pain, and that's the way he was for like the first 2 years in WWE until he turned babyface. They could have something similar for The Fiend. I mean, eventually you've terrorized all the babyfaces. You know, maybe they do a situation where the Fiend stays the Fiend, but now he's a babyface. I mean, if The Undertaker turned face in 92, which I thought was really hard to do, considering just his gimmick, who's to say the Fiend can't do it? So maybe that's in the future. You never know. What do y'all think? Was that JTG? Was that match with Balor no red lights? The one at SummerSlam? I always thought he's always worked with the red lights. I might have forgot. Well, that sucks, because now you can't use that as a reason. The Fiend versus The Undertaker versus Roman? Oh, man. I don't know. I think Brock versus The Fiend would be interesting, but I'd rather just see those guys do their own thing at WrestleMania. And we'll talk about Roman here in a minute as well. A lot of people are really praising the Mandy Rose and Otis storyline on SmackDown. And I got to say, it's entertaining. Mandy Rose, I can't tell if she's supposed to be heel or babyface, because one thing I hate that Mandy Rose does is this "you'll never look like me" nonsense. She said that to Alexa Bliss. You know what? I'm glad Alexa Bliss is never going to look like you, because I like the way she looks. But I don't like that like snobby attitude. "You'll never look like me." I'm like, bitch, fuck off. Anyway, she is kind of into Otis a little bit. They've been doing this thing on TV where there's been cakes involved and fruit cakes and hams. Otis, you know, the ham was damaged and Otis was cradling the ham and rubbing the ham, and it's been a mess, but it's been really funny. I think it's all of the segments between the two have been entertaining, well executed, and believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but there's chemistry there. There really is, and I'm not even a big Mandy Rose fan, but I'm liking all this. So last week, I think Dolph Ziggler I couldn't believe I wrote this quote down because it was so funny to me. Because I think Mandy Rose should go into the WWE Hall of Fame for being able to deliver this line with a straight face. And I quote, "Otis, I know I hurt your feelings when I let Dolph Ziggler step on your mom's fruitcake." Like, when she said that with such a straight face and with such sincerity, I laughed out loud. It was 2:30 in the morning last night, and I'm making my notes for this podcast, and I'm laughing. I'm like, I got to tweet something about this. I'm like, it's 2:30 in the morning. Nobody's awake. But I found that to be so funny. And she says, "I'm sorry about that, so I've got a present for you," and it's a box, and she opens it up, and it's a cake that says, "I'm sorry," written on it. And Otis, he's speechless. He just grunts and snorts, and she goes, "Well, I got a match. I'll see you later," and she goes away. And right before then, Tucker was trying to keep Otis focused. "Don't worry about Mandy. You're too good for her." And I agree. Otis can do a lot better than Mandy. He is ridiculously sexy, and women are lining up to get with him. So Mandy should feel lucky that he's even giving her the time of day. So Tucker's trying to keep Otis focused on their match, and come on, we got shit to do. But when Mandy delivers the cake to him, he is now, oh man, it's on. So Otis is very happy. So Mandy then goes out for her match with Alexa Bliss, ironically. They go about 2 minutes. Heavy Machinery's music hits. Otis comes out to the stage. He's got the cake. That's just enough to make Alexa Bliss go like, what the hell is going on? She gets rolled up by Mandy Rose, and Mandy gets the pin and wins in an upset there, I would say. And is Alexa who's the fucking face in this thing? I kind of do like it, though, that we've seen this a lot throughout the years, especially with female and male wrestlers when they kind of have like a romance, an on-screen romance. A lot of times it's a heel and a face, right? Remember, like Mark Henry and Chyna, and I don't know, there's many more examples, I'm sure, but a lot of times when they do these romances, it's always heel and face, and that's kind of funny. Nia Jax and Enzo, maybe they're both heels. I don't remember what was going on there, but there's definitely more examples of that. We also had a Lacey Evans and Bayley segment. Lacey's in the ring. She's supposed to have a match with Sasha Banks. So Lacey's in the ring waiting for Sasha. She doesn't show up. Bayley shows up on the Tron outside of her locker room and says that Sasha decided to go to LA to record her rap album. Is that really happening? I mean, her cousin is Snoop, so I'm sure it's possible. So I guess she's there recording a rap album. Great. Let me know how it is. So she's not there. She decided that she's not going to make her match. I don't know. Like, are you allowed to do that in kayfabe? If you just no-show an event, shouldn't you get fired for that? I think she should be fired. Anyway, Lacey's in the ring waiting for her. Bayley said she's not coming, and Lacey says, fine, I'm going to come find you. She jumps out of the ring after Bayley badmouths her, of course, jumps out of the ring, heads right to the back, right to Bayley's locker room, and Bayley's just hiding behind a doorway or something. So as soon as Lacey gets there, Bayley hits her from behind. Lacey attacks and fights back, and they're kind of pulled apart there. I thought it was funny when Bayley told Lacey Evans to put on her mom jeans. That was hilarious, and I think she even called Lacey Evans' daughter like a snot-nosed brat or something. So I guess Lacey might be getting a shot of the title. And what do you guys think about babyface Lacey? A lot of people are praising it, and I can't get behind it. I know she's got the whole military thing behind her, and that's very easy to get behind and stuff. But her gimmick itself, is that pompous, snobby type of gimmick, the nasties and the way she talks down to people. And I thought she was a really good heel. Like, as far as her presentation and what she said on the mic and shit, I thought the character was good as a heel. I don't know if it works as a babyface, but a lot of people are saying it does. I can't quite get behind it yet. I like her, and I think she's getting better, and I've always praised her mic work, but I don't know. I thought heel Lacey was better than babyface Lacey, but I might be in the minority in that. But let me know what you guys think. As expected, we were talking about in the last couple of weeks that Braun Strowman, since WWE has completely shit the bed on any aspirations of him being a world title holder, might as well put some different singles gold on him instead. And as soon as he started crossing paths with Shinsuke Nakamura, I was like, okay, that's it. They're going to put the IC belt on Braun Strowman. Looks like that's going to be the case here. He had a match with Nakamura on SmackDown. Non-title, Cesaro and Sammy are on the outside. Despite all of that failed interference, including Nakamura trying to use the belt, Strowman hits Nakamura with the power slam and pins him and holds on to the Intercontinental title at the end. And I don't know if that will lead to maybe a Rumble match for the IC title. I think they should put the belt on Strowman, at least give him something to do. I like Nakamura as the IC champion and everything, but if Strowman has this title match and comes out on the losing end, Jesus, man, what are you doing with this guy? 2 weeks ago, he was dancing with the New Day on SmackDown. So at least the Intercontinental title is something. It's not the world title, and I think they really missed the boat on him, a year or two ago. But IC belt for now, sure, why not? I'm on board. Roman Reigns had a promo with the Usos. The Usos are back now, helping him out last week. They're interrupted by Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler, and Corbin, of course, is just a huge douchebag. We then get the Usos versus Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler in a tag team match. The Revival comes out. They don't really do anything, but Roman comes out there and lays them out and just spears the absolute shit out of Baron Corbin on the outside of the ring, which caused the DQ. So Corbin and Ziggler beat the Usos via DQ there because Roman just couldn't keep his shit together. The brawl would continue until Bobby Roode. I can't believe it's been 30 days already. But Bobby Roode jumps the barricade, or Robert Roode jumps the barricade and attacks Roman Reigns, beats the shit out of Roman. Corbin and Ziggler lay waste to everyone, and they put Roman Reigns through a table to close out the show. So Bobby Roode is back. He looked good. They did the thing on TV where he was injured by Roman Reigns. That's why we haven't seen him in a while. But he did fail a wellness test and got suspended for 30 days. So he's back now, and Corbin's little stable there is back to full strength. And we'll see what happens now. We've got Roman and Baron Corbin at the Royal Rumble. That was announced and made official, so not a real big surprise there. But both men are also going to be in the Rumble itself, and I like it when they do that. I like when they have matches and then those two are in the Rumble, because there were some years there they weren't doing it back in like the 90s. So Roman and Corbin, that will be the end, I'm certain, of this fucking feud. It has to be. Roman will beat Baron Corbin and end him, and we'll see what happens in the Royal Rumble. It's anybody's guess with what happens there. The Royal Rumble card right now is only Daniel Bryan versus The Fiend, Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin, Becky Lynch versus Asuka, and the men's and the women's Rumble. So, if they're going to make Roman Super Roman again, he can win his match with Corbin here and then also win the Royal Rumble. But I am not sold on Roman Reigns winning the Rumble. I've said that before. And now that Lesnar is in it, I'm hoping that maybe it's a situation too where Lesnar comes face to face with somebody in the Rumble, and then maybe that person throws Lesnar out and then wins the Rumble and then challenges Lesnar and then beats him at WrestleMania as well. That would require a lot of putting over by Lesnar. So I don't know, but I don't think it really necessarily needs to be Roman. If it's going to be Roman in The Fiend, Roman can earn that title shot some other way. Maybe at Elimination Chamber or whatever. So we have time to get to that. But I think Brock's challenger would be more fun. I think Brock's challenger should win the Rumble because that person can, just challenge him for the belt. Could be anybody, and it could be somebody from NXT, or, like I said, SmackDown. It could be somebody like Kofi from SmackDown. It could be Keith Lee from NXT, although I don't think it will be. And I'm going to talk about Keith Lee in a minute, but I have a feeling he's going to win that North American title in a couple of weeks. So it could be it could be anybody, but I think the winner, whoever Brock faces, needs to be the Royal Rumble winner, is basically what I've been saying. I've been saying that for weeks. I just hope it's not Velasquez. My God. We'll backtrack here and talk about the Wednesday Night Wars now. Let me just jump up here and knock out a couple of super chats real quick before we talk about what happened on Wednesday. DM23, thank you for the $2, dude. Number 2 in the Rumble match, jobber or top guy. Yeah, that's something that we haven't really talked about. I forgot to mention that too. When Brock is entering the Royal Rumble at number 1, who's number 2? And they could set that whole thing up right off the bat. Brock Lesnar could do the opposite of what he's going to intend to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that happens. Goldberg, don't forget, beat Lesnar in a matter of seconds at the Survivor Series several years back. So maybe if they're going to set up Lesnar and somebody at WrestleMania, whoever number 2 is, comes out and tosses him out immediately. And that could be Cain Velasquez. God, I hope not. But it could be somebody really awesome as well, like maybe a Drew McIntyre. You guys throw out other names. Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, who am I forgetting? I'm kind of ruling out Samoa Joe right now. It would be fun to see Matt Riddle show up and toss Brock Lesnar out, one half of the Broserweights. We'll see. I don't know. Number 2, I didn't even think about that, man. Good point. Number 2, I hope it's not a jobber. I hope it's, I guess number 2 could be a jobber. Whatever they do, you just want a situation where Brock is by himself and somebody major comes out. That's what you want. And you have the ability here to do that even more than once if you really want to. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes at the Rumble. Michael Cuomo, good to see you, man. Thanks for the $5. I appreciate it. Vince once said, not showing up as advertised is the only unpardonable sin you can do in wrestling that shouldn't be broken. Yes, he has said that. Now he's talking about that in real life. Now, for kayfabe, it's just kind of weird that the reasoning behind punishments on TV and fines, you put your hands on an official, so we're randomly going to fine you $25,000, where you've had guys powerbombing officials and not get fined a penny. And here Sasha is just not showing up for a television match, and all's okay? What a weird company. What a weird company we watch. It's fucking WWE. Anyway, let's stay on the subject of WWE, and then we'll wrap up with AEW, and we'll talk about NXT this week. I didn't consider NXT or AEW to be that great of a show, but we did see a lot go on. NXT opened up with a Rhea Ripley promo, and it was one of those promos where they do everybody comes out to join her. So the first person that comes out, however, is pretty interesting because it's Toni Storm. Now, Toni Storm beat her for the NXT UK Women's title. I don't know when that was, a while back, a year or so ago. So that kind of is a natural match there. I even said that after Rhea Ripley won the title. I'm like, they should do another match with her and Toni Storm. So now Ripley is the face of the NXT women's division and probably will be so for several months to come. This is probably a win that she needs to get back. So Toni Storm challenges Rhea Ripley accepts. Then and Toni Storm might be a champion too. Whenever they do this match, probably maybe at the TakeOver Portland show, right, is likely when they'll do Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley, or will they do it at Worlds Collide? Actually, that might be where it is. And that could be a champion versus champion match, because tomorrow Toni Storm has a title match against Piper Niven and Kaylee Ray in a triple threat for the title. So whenever that showdown happens, that will be fun, and I fully expect Rhea Ripley to win that match. We were then joined by Kaylee Ray, Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, and Bianca Belair. So they all came out there and set up a big, confusing 6-woman tag. I believe it was Ripley, Storm, and LeRae against Kaylee Ray, Io Shirai, and Bianca Belair, right? Was that the pairing there? There was dissension between Bianca and Io Shirai. Ripley pins Belair after Riptide. And I guess technically the babyfaces won there. So nice little teasing of Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley, but I think they needed a lot less there. They could have just had the promo be between those two and previously advertise the 6-woman match. I just don't like it when, we see that on Raw and SmackDown like every week, especially when a champion doesn't have a challenger at the time, especially when a champion is new. How often have we seen that? Somebody just wins the belt, they come out on Raw, and everybody and their mother who wants to challenge them comes out one at a time. Everybody gets their entrance music, and everybody gets a mic, and it's annoying. And they did the same thing here, just to set up a match that really, at the end of the day, didn't fucking matter at all. We had a couple of, we had some Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Tournament news. 2 matches, round 1 matches got underway. We had Imperium defeating the Forgotten Sons. I'm pretty sure the Forgotten Sons made it to the finals last year. So they're out in round 1, and Undisputed Era defeated NXT UK Tag Champions Gallus, Wolfgang and Mark Coffey, in kind of a champion versus champion match, and they moved on. So Undisputed advanced and Imperium advanced, and we got an announcement on who Kushida's mystery tag team partner is going to be. It's going to be Alex Shelley. Now, I wasn't even aware that the two of them teamed up before and were known as the Time Splitters. Sorry, didn't know that. So Alex Shelley, who's been around the block a couple of times and is a great wrestling veteran, is now in WWE, getting a shot there. So good for him. I'm interested to see how they do. Would be cool if they won it, but I kind of have a theory on Undisputed Era. I kind of feel like after the 2019 that they had, and they walked away with all of those awards at the end of the year show. They've got all the belts right now. I mean, I feel like we are just merely days away from the wheels beginning to come off. And I kind of think it's happening soon. And I think maybe a good way to throw us off that trail is to have Undisputed Era win the tournament, just to give them every accolade possible. They got all the belts, and now they got the Dusty Cup under their belts as well. That would be a nice final cherry on top on what has been a remarkable run by this faction. And like I'll talk about later in the main event, with Keith Lee now being the number 1 contender and Adam Cole on the verge of probably a match with Tommaso Ciampa, this could all be the start of it. So we'll see what happens. And we also have Matt Riddle teaming up with Pete Dunne, don't forget. The promo that Matt Riddle cut, which was probably less than a minute, was fucking hilarious. He talked about how him and Pete Dunne got together, because it is an odd pairing. That's what I'm trying to say. Kind of weird. I thought maybe they'd put Riddle and Keith Lee together, but they might have, obviously, other plans for Keith Lee, which is why they're not a team. So Riddle and Pete Dunne are together. That's a pretty badass team, but Matt Riddle explaining how they came together, how he's like, he's a bro and I'm a bro, and so now we're the Broserweights, and the Broserweights are born. So I'm rooting for them in the tag team tournament, and I think Kushida and Alex Shelley are an interesting team too. They'll be fun. But in the end, I almost think Undisputed Era should either win it to be the final feather in their cap before all of this glory is gone, or it could be another piece of the beginning of the end when all of the members start losing. Now, they're still going to be champions here if they lose in the main event, or I'm sorry, in the finals. If they make it to the finals, I don't think their belts will be on the line. So I think maybe they win here, but then have a rematch with whoever they beat and drop the belts to them, maybe to Kushida and Alex Shelley, or maybe to Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. And then if you have the other members of Undisputed Era all lose their belts within a few weeks span there, that could be the beginning of the end of the Undisputed Era. Just a feeling that I have, at this point, and I'll talk about that more in a second. They seem to be really putting over Austin Theory huge. This kid's like 21 or 22 years old. Very impressive. Got a good victory over Joaquin Wilde in this. Pretty impressive kid. Don't really know a whole lot about him, but you can tell WWE has investment behind him, and that usually means good things. When NXT cares about you, you're usually put in some pretty good situations. Pretty good Johnny Gargano promo with Finn Balor was up next. This match is being, I guess, booked for TakeOver Portland. Now, TakeOver Portland is, I have the date on this, it's not until like late February or something, right? Or early February. So we got a ways before we get to TakeOver Portland. So we got long way to go here. And they're setting up a lot of these matches pretty early, which means, the build can either get stale or the build can get really good in WWE, or NXT has some time here to really build these issues between these guys. And there's a big one between Gargano and Balor. I think Balor is doing well in his, his role as a heel now, because it was hard to get used to him, being, who he was back in Japan in NXT all these years later. And, I was, aside from using industry terms and things like that, he wasn't impressing me too much on the mic, but now I'm starting to feel his attitude a little bit more. Now I'm starting to feel his heelness a little bit more. So now I think he's doing much better. Maybe he's not doing much better heel work. I'm just more comfortable with his heel work, I should say. He challenged Gargano to the TakeOver Portland match, but also said that Gargano might not make it that far. So pretty good stuff between the two of them. And Gargano basically was saying that he's NXT through and through. And when Finn Balor got the call, he left, and, Gargano didn't do that, and blah, blah, blah. So the issue will continue to build here. And clearly, Balor is going to attempt to injure Gargano prior to their TakeOver match. We had a Mia Yim match taking on Caden Carter. Mia Yim got the win there. It's kind of a babyface match, a little show respect at the end, and the two of them are jumped and attacked by Chelsea Green, who we just saw her work on Raw against Charlotte not too long ago. She's kind of reappeared here. She has a new manager with him. I think they're calling him, is it Robert Stone? Yeah, Robert Stone. Now, this is formerly Robbie E in TNA. I thought I recognized him. He's kind of wearing a suit and some big-ass glasses, and I guess he's going to be a new manager in NXT, and I think that's good. Wrestling needs, some managers, some male managers. See, I would like to see that brought back a little bit here and there. So this guy apparently is going to begin a stable. I don't know if it's going to consist of men and women or just women, but he's got his first one here with Chelsea Green, who does her little pose. She's with Zack Ryder, right? Is that who she's with? I don't think they're married. I think they're just dating. And she's pretty good. I've always liked what I've seen out of Chelsea Green. She's been in NXT for a while now, working out, and hopefully we'll do big things on the roster, and we'll see where this little faction or stable with Robert Stone goes. He might have even said the name of it, but I didn't catch it, so I don't know if there's a name to that or not. Now, like I said earlier, Keith Lee is your new number one contender. He won a triple threat match over Dominik Dijakovic and Damian Priest to earn a title shot against Roderick Strong in 2 weeks for the North American title on NXT. Now, was it a fatal four-way? Cameron Grimes was involved in this too, because Keith Lee pinned him with a spirit bomb. So yeah, it was Grimes, Dijakovic, Priest, and Keith Lee. Fatal four-way, number one contenders match. Keith Lee won that. He now faces Roderick in 2 weeks. And like I said earlier, I just feel like this could be it. I mean, what more can we do with the Undisputed Era? I love them. I love their theme song. I love the Adam Cole Baby. I'm a big fan of Adam Cole and his work, and I love what he does. But they have been crushing it for so long now. You know, it feels like this is when WWE normally ends things with a group or faction. You know, even the Shield, you know, saw their end. So if they did it here in the next few months, I don't necessarily think that it would be too early, you know, or maybe they just lose their belts, but they remain together. Maybe you don't break the faction up. But all of these teams or all of these men in this faction seem like they're headed for doom. You know, you've got Undisputed Era in the Dusty Cup right now, and whether they win it or they lose it, I think it's going to lead to them eventually dropping the tag team titles. And Keith Lee has been on such a tear. He's been so impressive, dating all the way back to this past Survivor Series. And I expect him to have a pretty good showing in the Royal Rumble, too, if he comes in as a surprise entrant, which I hope he does. And considering that he's also probably not in line for the NXT World title right now, because I think that feud is going to be reserved for Adam Cole and Ciampa. So you have to do something with him. So putting him in the ring now with Roderick Strong, and Roderick Strong already escaped once. He had to face Keith Lee in like a multi-man match for the title, right? And he won. So I think this is the beginning of the end. I think in 2 weeks, because as we'll talk about the ratings here too, AEW beat the shit out of NXT this week, won by over 200,000 viewers. So I think a title change is very, very likely, and Keith Lee is super over right now. And in 2 weeks, I'm predicting right now that he's going to win the North American title from Roderick Strong. Roderick's held it for a while now as well, and so far, the lineage of the North American title, when you look back at who's held it, you know, nobody's held it for very long. You know, Adam Cole, Ricochet, Velveteen Dream. Where the hell's Velveteen, by the way? Let's get him back on TV. Those guys didn't have terribly long runs. Even Gargano had it, right? And his run wasn't very long. So Roderick is ripe. So I think Keith Lee beats him in 2 weeks. And then, you know, we saw a couple of different Tommaso Ciampa promos on NXT where he's talking about his title and how it was taken from him because of his injury, and Adam Cole's gone on to have a great year, and he wants his baby back. He wants his belt back. So that's the feud on the horizon there. So that will be probably at TakeOver Portland. And I think Adam Cole, considering how long he's held the title, I think maybe TakeOver Tampa or whatever the TakeOver associated with WrestleMania is, that might be the better place for him to drop the belt, but they might not be able to drag it out that long. So if you have Roderick drop the North American title in 2 weeks to Keith Lee, then you have Adam Cole drop the title at the next TakeOver show to Tommaso Ciampa. Maybe they do the rematch at WrestleMania TakeOver. That's possible. And then Undisputed Era, somewhere in between there, drops the tag belts as well. That could be the beginning of either the implosion of the faction, or maybe it brings them together. You know, maybe failure makes their bond even stronger and they don't go anywhere, which would be perfectly fine with me. But I feel like the writing's on the wall. I feel like we're getting close. You know, when you watch that year-end show on New Year's Day or whatever, and those guys are just sitting there with every goddamn trophy imaginable, I'm like, yeah, it's like, that's it. You know, now what do? You know, do you move him onto the main roster? I think Adam Cole's much better off in NXT. I am a little bit nervous about him dropping the belt and potentially moving on to SmackDown or Raw because he's small, you know, and I just don't know. Like somebody like him and Gargano and even Finn Balor, as we're seeing now, I think are just so much better there. So if they have big plans for the Undisputed Era and they're going to come up together as a 4-man group to one of the main rosters, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. But that makes me nervous as hell. So basically, I'm sad. I'm bummed out that this is likely, I think in the next few months, by the time we get to summertime and after WrestleMania, I don't know what's going to be left of the Undisputed Era. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm just completely fucking stupid and I'm completely off base on this and nothing's going to happen to the faction at all. I just feel like we're getting near the end. Yeah, Dream is still injured, I know, but like, come on, get better. I didn't miss any super chats, did I? Doesn't look like it. Oh, Jesus, let me block this dumbass. How Weezy, you in here? Help me. Take care of that. Jesus. Let me just block a couple of people. Oh, this hasn't happened in a while. We got a couple of just dumbasses in the chat here. We'll just get them out of here. No big deal. God, what kind of life do these people have? My God. All right, just doing a little house cleaning in here. The chat is being invaded by robots. Yeah, I see it now. All right, just clean it up. All right, that's no big deal. Imagine what they probably look like. I was like, it's amazing that you can tell just by typing on a screen. You can tell if someone's parents are brother and sister just by reading words. Very interesting. It's science. It's science. Sometimes you just know. We got to backtrack all the way to NXT, or I'm sorry, AEW now, because I feel bad that I'm waiting until the end to talk about them, because they, like I said, just beat the bejesus out of NXT in the ratings for some reason. Because the reason I say for some reason is because I don't think either show was really that wonderful. I watched them, but I've seen better from both, basically. So NXT, they did a rating of 721,000, did not even break the top 50, which was crazy, which even delayed their rating in coming in because of that. AEW, nearly 1 million, 947,000, so that's quite the victory for them, but I'm not quite sure why. Were people really tuning in just to see Moxley's answer? They had a lot of support this week. Good for them. It wasn't a bad show. I liked the show. I think last week's show was a little bit better. And we had a couple of just some awful moments on the show, but we had some good ones too. They're still teasing the dissension between Hangman Page and Omega, and I think I know where this one is going. They opened up the show, by the way, had a tag team match with the Private Party and beat them. So there's no split yet, but there's dissension. There's some beef between the two. There was even a small miscommunication in the match that they recovered from and wound up winning the match. And that's when Pac appeared on the screen. Now, Pac has been begging Omega for another match. He wants Kenny Omega to fight him. I don't know why Kenny Omega is hesitating. I don't know why he just doesn't say, fine, I'll take you on. I'm the best goddamn wrestler in the world. But he seems to be hesitating. Pac's been assaulting Michael Nakazawa. He's got him in the brutalizer. And he goes, I'm going to continue to do this. Until you give me your match, I'm going to just destroy everybody. So he's basically demanding the rubber match between the two. So you even see Adam Page, kind of say, go run. Kenny Omega ran to the back to, go confront Pac, and Adam Page kind of gave him his blessing. No, go do your business. Go do what you have to do. So to me, with Revolution, is that the next AEW pay-per-view, right? Revolution, that's coming up on February 29th. So what I think is going to happen is that's a ways off. That's still over a month off. So what I think they should do here, because we're going to get this split, between Hangman and Omega. And if I had to guess, I think Hangman is going to be the one to go heel here and turn on Omega. So what I see happening is Omega is going to agree to the match with Pac. Rubber match. Book that match for Dynamite is what you should do. Pac versus Kenny Omega. And during that match, you have Adam Page turn on Omega. Show up, interfere, cost Kenny Omega the match. That gives Pac the good rub. He wins the rubber match over Omega, and it sends Omega right into his feud now with Adam Page, that you can book the match between the two on the February 29th Revolution. So I would like to see Page and Omega do the split and have the match made for the pay-per-view on the 29th, because that should be a good-looking show. Written down right here just off the top of my head, Cody Rhodes versus MJF will likely take place there. Moxley versus Jericho, and either Omega and Page or Omega and Pac taking place as well. That's a pretty good start to Revolution. So that's kind of what I think they should do and what they might do going on with the Page and Omega situation. We had Rio defending the women's title against Chris Statlander. This was supposed to be a week ago, but Statlander had an indie booking, so she missed it. Rio had to defend the belt last week as well, and she wound up retaining. This week, she's taken on Statlander, and I just wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't feeling that Rio was going to drop the belt here in this way, in this particular match. And Statlander has unresolved issues with the Nightmare Collective. And when you saw Brandy on commentary, that gave it away. I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do here, but Rio's going to retain because Brandy is there. There's going to be some interference. That. And my God, was this an overbooked trash fire. I hated everything about this, and this is something that just AEW is going to have to work on. I'm not going to use this as ammunition. See, they suck. They're not going to amount to anything. This is mistakes the company's going to be made. This was overbooked. This was fucked up. And they keep doing these flat debuts and doing a terrible job of getting the fans interested in who these nobodies are. Not nobodies, but who these people who nobody knows are whenever they debut. We've seen this a ton of times. So anyway, Brandy's on commentary for the match. We see Karma, or not Karma, I can't believe I called her Karma. We saw Awesome Kong come out. The other one came out. Brandy even left the announce booth. They're getting involved with Statlander. A lot of the stuff's going on in front of the referee as well. And then out of nowhere, from underneath the ring, we see this bald-headed guy that we've been seeing the back of his head, I guess, in some vignettes and promos by the Nightmare Collective. He debuts, turns out to be Dr. Luther, and he's very well known on the indie circuit. He's got a long history in wrestling. I think he's close to 50 years old. He's worked with a lot of people. A lot of people know who he is, but the casual audience don't know who he is. And there's really, if he's going to come out, an Excalibur who continues to do this, every time there's a debut, Excalibur blurts out their name and who they are and tries to tell us, oh my God, it's Dr. Luther. Well, guess what? Nobody knows who the fuck Dr. Luther is. I think it would be better if, when you have somebody debut like Giant Gonzalez, came out in the Royal Rumble. What is that? What is that thing? Who is that? What is this person? Constantly just freak out, wondering who it is. That is a scary looking dude. What is this about? What does this mean? Basically try to create some interest. Don't just blurt out his name. Oh, that's so-and-so from the indie scene. Make it sound a little bit more important than that. So far, every time they've done this, they happened with the Dark Order when they debuted. And who else debuted that just got completely shit on? It was just awful. So this is something that constantly happens, and they just don't do it well. And this whole thing was poorly executed because everybody got involved. Nightmare Collective is involved. Dr. Luther debuts. You had another thing I don't like that they do. They keep putting wrestlers at ringside for some reason. Like, they're backstage all day. They're making it sound like they bought tickets and they're sitting in the front row. I just think that's dumb. So you had Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker were at ringside just sitting there. Hikaru Shida jumps the barricade and gets involved, where Britt doesn't do anything. She just sits out there with that look on her face that became an instant meme on the internet. So she doesn't do shit, but you had Hikaru Shida jump in, and you had Big Swole come out. Sonny Kiss came out. This thing was all over the place. I was just like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The whole thing sucked, to be honest. Sorry, AEW. This was way overbooked. This was way overdone. It confused the shit out of me. You had this new guy that's supposed to be a pretty big force in the Nightmare Collective. He got taken out, by the way, by 80-pound Riho. She hit him with a head scissors or a crossbody or something. So this brand new scary wrestler that you're debuting just got taken out by a 90-pound woman, or however heavy she is. She ain't big. So that was a mistake. Just who's writing this shit? Who booked this shit, basically? Not good. Didn't like any of that. I did like Daniels and Sammy Guevara a little bit. Daniels is 2 months away from turning 50 years old. Can you believe that? And he's been recruited lately by the Dark Order. They've been trying to get him to join. I've been saying all along, ever since he was attacked by Pentagon Jr., or the Lucha Bros, I can't remember which one of them, hit him with the pile driver and injured him, and he was off for a couple of weeks. Then he came back and botched, the move on the top rope there, which I don't think was really a botch. I think he might have done that on purpose to play into this, because now Pentagon is coming out there trolling him. He comes out there with a microphone and distracts Daniels, allowing Sammy Guevara to get the victory. The Dark Order comes out, offers Daniels a spot. He says no. Dark Order swarms and attacks, and SCU comes out there and makes the save. So considering Christopher Daniels passed, as the fallen angel, there was even talk back 20 years ago he was going to be the higher power. And with him already having connections to these darker type of gimmicks, and with him being 50 years old now, he might need to be more character presentation and less in-ring work. You know what I mean? Because he's not the Christopher Daniels of old, even though he's still incredibly good for his age. I think going heel and utilizing that side of his character would be better for him. But, like I said, my finger's not on the pulse of that as hard as maybe some of yours are. So maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Daniels eventually should turn heel and do something, and be a character and utilize his experience in the business and maybe help some of these young Dark Order guys. One of them clearly doesn't know how to fucking punch. So maybe having Daniels in a group like that could help, and it would give him a big name and some more star power in the faction. So even though he didn't turn heel here, I kind of hope he does later on down the road. And another kind of weird situation, we had Cody Rhodes taken and Dustin Rhodes taking on the Lucha Brothers in a tag team match, and they won. Tony Schiavone comes in to interview Dustin and Cody after the match, and Arn Anderson, of course, is at ringside because he's been accompanying Cody Rhodes to the ring the last couple of weeks. And I mentioned this last week in last week's podcast that I question whether or not it's needed. I question whether or not it's necessary. It doesn't make any sense to me. Cody, by this point, is already a veteran, and I saw some people praising it, and I thought it was silly. Last week when he had the match with Darby Allin, and Darby Allin went for the coffin drop, and Arn jumps up on the apron to tell Cody to put the knees up, you would think a veteran like Cody Rhodes would already know to scout the coffin drop and be aware of it and put his knees up without anybody telling him. So far, that's all really Arn has done. And I even said last week that this could eventually be a liability at some point. Arn is an older man now, and at some point he could be attacked on the outside of the ring, distracting Cody, costing him future matches. So it might not even be something he wants to do. Plus, Arn has a nasty history as a member of the Four Horsemen with Dusty. So I thought it was just maybe, I felt like they were shoehorning Arn into an on-air role, which put Arn in an on-air role. Great, no problem. Do it. I love Arn Anderson. I got no issue with that at all. I just don't know if this is the right fit. So Arn, before Cody or Dustin can even say anything, Shivani's asking Cody about the match with MJF, because last week MJF listed out all of those stipulations, and this week on Dynamite, Cody is supposed to respond to that, but Arn interrupts and basically he's like, no, we heard it. We're going to talk about it. Cody wants the match. We're going to discuss it. We'll get back to you next week. So we know that MJF's stipulations are, Cody can't touch him. He's got to face Wardlow in a cage. He has to be whipped and beaten by MJF. All these ridiculous stipulations, and we still don't know what Cody is going to do, what his answer is. That's going to be the Revolution match, but I don't know what they're going to say next week and if Cody is really going to go along with all of this and have the cage match and do all this crap. I guess we'll find out. But later on, we had MJF cutting a promo where he's calling out Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes doesn't come out, even though their segments were back-to-back. You mean to tell me these guys didn't just see each other in the entranceway or a gorilla or wherever? So I think they should have been way more spread apart than this, the two segments. And plus, Cody was just in the ring, in his gear, in his fighting gear. And MJF is calling him out. What's he doing back there? Is he having some water, taking a piss? What's he doing? Get back out there and fight MJF. But he doesn't. DDP comes out instead. DDP makes his way to the ring, which is pretty funny because he gets on the mic and starts cutting a promo. And in one of the funniest images of the week, I loved it. You had MJF standing in the corner. He's on his phone looking completely disinterested right in the middle of DDT's promo. And he actually sends a tweet. I believe he said, "When is this old fart going to shut up?" He tweeted that from the ring during DDP's promo, which I laughed my ass off. That's great stuff. MJF, oh man, he's amazing. So much like the the Nightmare Collective segment, a lot of shit starts happening here. We had the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny coming out. What's the word here? I'm trying to think of a better word for interrupt, but they interrupt DDP, who's also been getting into it with MJF, and DDP even hints that he could be back in the ring again on TNT again one day. Butcher and Blade and Bunny come out. DDP hits Butcher and the Blade with a diamond cutter, and Dustin Rhodes then runs out to the ring with QT Marshall to help DDP. But where is Cody in all this? He was just there, and there's this big attack going on with his mortal enemy in MJF, and he doesn't come out there, but his brother does. Really weird. So anyway, the whole segment winds up leading to an announcement that next week it'll be MJF and the Butcher and the Blade taking on Dustin, QT Marshall, and DDP. So DDP returns to the ring next week on TNT, which on the surface is great. DDP is a legend, and he used to wrestle on Nitro way back in the day. It's going to be a nice throwback, but I don't know how interested I am in seeing DDP in the ring. He's in the best shape he could possibly be for someone his age because he's the founder and the owner of DDP Yoga, and if anybody can do it, DDP can. I think he'll be somewhat protected in the six-man tag where he won't have to do a whole lot, hopefully just throw a diamond cutter or two, and he can hopefully not be exposed, and they won't overdo it in that match. So I'm willing to give it a shot. It is going to be cool to see DDP on TNT, and I'll be looking forward to seeing him on the Jericho Cruise as well. Maybe he'll have a match there also. But yeah, the Bash at the Beach festivities kick off this coming week on AEW Dynamite, and I believe it's a 2-week deal, and some matches are going to be filmed when I'm on the boat as well. So I liked the promo, and I liked the segment because Cody was entertaining, even DDP was entertaining, but with so much going on and the wrong people running in, it was just weird, and Butcher and Blade now are probably going to lose along with MJF. Well, maybe not. Maybe not with MJF involved. I was thinking it would be a feel-good moment for the fans next week. Just have DDP win, hit somebody with a diamond cutter, pin him. It is possible you get ultra heat for MJF and have him pin DDP or something. Imagine that. That's actually what I would do. I would actually do that next week over DDP hitting the diamond cutter and pinning somebody and the fans cheering. I'd have MJF pin him. Because imagine that little shithead on the mic after he does that, and I'm going to have to witness it firsthand because I'll be there in Miami in a couple of weeks. But if he beats DDP, he's going to be one obnoxious little shit. And that should be interesting and entertaining. Jurassic Express and Orange Cassidy, Jurassic Express took on Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. This was crazy shit all over the place because I think Marco Stunt was in his hometown, so a lot of fan reaction from him, and he had a lot of time to shine in this match as well. They wound up winning when Jungle Boy pinned Chuck Taylor. Nothing to say there other than Jurassic Express is over, and Luchasaurus, everybody loves him, and the crowd was going nuts for little Marco Stunt. Orange Cassidy probably also had one of the pops of the night. So for everybody that doesn't like these type of characters and stuff, there is clearly, you can never say that there's not a place for them in wrestling because that's incorrect. There clearly is, and they get a good positive fan reaction pretty much every time I've seen them on TV. So until that changes, I'm sorry, your argument is invalid. We had the main event segment, of course, was Jericho's big offer to Jon Moxley. They got all the bubbly out there, big table of bubbly. I still got one bottle left right there. Table of bubbly on ice. The entire inner circle is out there. They call out Jon Moxley, and I said this the minute Jericho offered him that car and everything. I said on Twitter, it's going to be a DDP and NWO situation. I said this like 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago, whenever they did the car thing. I was like, Moxley's going to come out there with an inner circle shirt, and he's going to claim to join the group, and then he's going to turn on him. So Moxley is called out by Jericho. Jericho's in the ring looking great. Talked about how him and Moxley took care of business at Wrestle Kingdom. Actually said Wrestle Kingdom on Dynamite. And apparently the working agreement that we thought was going to be started with AEW and New Japan, considering Jericho was wrestling in New Japan, saying if Tanahashi beat him, he gets a title shot, taking the AEW belt to Wrestle Kingdom, and Moxley winning gold over there. All signs were pointing to some sort of a working agreement, but it doesn't look like that's the case now, or it's not the case yet. Maybe it still has a chance of happening. So Jericho just mentioning Wrestle Kingdom, I thought was a good thing and a good sign, and talks about how him and Mox were victorious. Mox comes down to the ring. He's coming through the crowd as always, and he's wearing a jacket. And I was like, well, there you go. You know what's under that jacket. And I tweeted again. I'm like, inner circle shirt under the jacket, right? And sure enough, Moxley winds up getting on the mic, and he says that he cannot be bought. There's no amount of money, clearly, that'll make him do anything, referencing that he just left a big money contract in WWE because he hated it. So money is not the only thing, and he can't be bought. But his answer is yes. He says yes, he's joining the Inner Circle, unzipped his jacket, takes it off to reveal the Inner Circle shirt. These dumbasses in the Inner Circle, like, you cannot see this coming. DDP was even on the show a couple of segments prior to this. And he did the same thing to the NWO years ago when he had down the NWO shirt, and then he diamond cuttered Scott Hall. Great segment on Nitro, one of the most memorable NWO segments of all time, because as everybody was turning, everybody was joining the NWO, you really had no reason to believe that DDP wouldn't. But he was such an over babyface when he turned and hit that diamond cutter, the pop that audience gave them. Oh my God. So it's been done a bunch of times. I think Christian and TNA did something similar with like Team Canada or whatever. So this is something that's very common, whenever it comes to factions recruiting someone. So it wasn't that, it was pretty predictable, basically. So Jericho and these Inner Circle idiots should realize that. But they're so stupid and they're so overconfident that they break out the bubbly, which I think was just water. There was nothing bubbly about those bottles of bubbly. Even if the corks had been off of them for a while, they would have had to have been off of them for like 3 days for them not to produce any sort of carbonation. Because when you shake up a bottle of champagne, it fucking explodes. And Sammy Guevara is shaking up that bottle and nothing's happening. So I think they were all filled with water. So they're all drinking the bubbly, and Jericho is so overconfident that the rest of the Inner Circle guys leave. And as soon as Jake Hager and Guevara and whoever else was out there, as soon as they left the ring, I'm like, Jericho, you're fucked. And that's when Moxley was like, oh, by the way, hey, I was just kidding. I don't want to be a part of your stupid group. It's a stupid name. It's a stupid faction. It's a stupid idea. And winds up taking a bottle of the bubbly and breaking it over Jericho's head. And I'm pretty sure that was sugar glass that was used, because right after that, I think Moxley went for another bottle of bubbly and went to swing it, but it broke too early. And Jericho's really never had any luck with this. Remember back in the day in his, I think it was WrestleMania build with CM Punk, when he had like the bottle of Jack Daniels and he broke it over his head, but I think the bottle broke early and then Jericho slipped and fell in it. So he's never really had that much luck with these types of props. But I could be wrong. I just think it was, that's just what they were using there. And I definitely think there was water in the bubbly, but he beat the shit out of Jericho. Hager jumps in the ring to kind of hold Jericho, hold the broken leader of the Inner Circle, and it was still a good segment. I mean, even though it was super predictable, I think they had enough fun with it, because you knew the end result here was going to be Moxley not joining and Moxley being Jericho's next challenger, obviously, right? So you already knew that was going to happen, but they never really had me have any doubt. Like the entire time that he was drinking and he had the t-shirt on, I never once believed that he was going to be in that group permanently. I thought maybe he'd stick with him for a couple of weeks just for the build, like Daniel Bryan did with the Wyatt family years ago. But, you know, he just turned right there, smashed the thing over Jericho's head. Now we got a lot of weeks of build between these two, which should be fun. You know, these are pros here. And somebody said, I forgot, I can't remember what happened here, but didn't Chris Jericho have something to do with the death of Mitch? Am I wrong about that? Somebody mentioned that to me on Twitter, that this is revenge for what happened to Mitch, but I don't remember because my memory sucks. So these two guys have a history. I think the in-ring segments and the promo work between these two leading up to their inevitable title match will be fun. And I got to say, I'm looking forward to the next pay-per-view for AEW. I think it looks good, especially if they do Cody and MJF, Moxley and Jericho, and if they do Omega and Page, like I'm predicting. I think Page is going to turn, but if they don't, we know we're at least going to get Omega and Pac. It's going to be one of those two matches. So right off the bat there, I think Revolution is shaping up nicely. Bucks will still have to wrestle. Lucha Brothers will still have to have a match. Lots of other guys. But, you know, as for right now, I'm thinking Revolution looks decent on paper. And I think that basically wraps it up for my notes. Let me head back over here to the chat. Yes, Mitch the Plant. Didn't he have something to do with that? Yeah, that's what I said earlier. Austin, is Moxley, one of the bottles broke early. I thought he was swinging it and it broke in his hand or what happened, but yeah, it definitely broke early. You have to be careful with that stuff because it's fragile, because you can't be breaking champagne bottles over people's heads. I want Jericho to survive. I'm looking forward to meeting him in a week. So yeah, that's going to make, so this coming Monday, like I said, we're going to do the big live Raw reaction. We're going to donate all of the proceeds, the super chats, and the ad revenue to the Australian Red Cross to help with the relief efforts there with the wildfires. So that'll be coming up on Monday. And then a week from today, I'll be back up here for one more Winged Eagle podcast. But then I leave the next day and I'll be gone all the way up until Royal Rumble weekend. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to take a lot of video and a lot of pictures on the cruise and on the trip, and I will put together some sort of a vlog or a video documenting my experience on YouTube probably a few days after I get back. So I will be doing that, and if there's any way to live stream while I'm there, I don't know what. I haven't been on a cruise since I was 14 years old. So if there's if internet is strong there and you're able to, you know, go live and everything, all I'm going to have with me is my phone. But maybe I will do a live stream, and I got a coughing cat over there. I'll do a live stream from the ship or from somewhere during my time there, so keep a lookout for that. But that will be, you know, Monday night will be the last Raw review, because the next week I will be gone, and I won't be back until Friday before Royal Rumble, so it might be really hard 2 weeks from today for me to be up here with a Winged Eagle podcast, because we have TakeOver that night, and we have the Royal Rumble that day, so stay tuned. I will give you guys information next week on what my plans are exactly for Royal Rumble weekend. I got to figure that out. As a matter of fact, I probably will react to the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, most likely, because that's a fun one to react to. The participants come out one at a time. I haven't reacted to a pay-per-view in a while, so I might do that for Royal Rumble, because we can chat a little bit more during the show. I can talk about the Jericho Cruise and all that shit. That might be a fun thing to do. So that tentatively is the plan, at least for a Royal Rumble reaction. I'll watch the whole pay-per-view, and we'll have a good time. So keep a lookout for that. Stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed. Click that notifications bell. I've also been utilizing the community tab on the YouTube channel a lot more lately, so I'm making posts there, giving you guys information. So always make sure you check my channel. I might have some info up there for you on future videos and whatnot. And yeah, that's about it. I'm done plugging myself. And I'd also appreciate a follow on Twitter. Go shoot me a follow at the GoodMicWork, or at GoodMicWork, excuse me. Yeah, R.I.P. Mitch and Ramblin' Rabbit. Ramblin' Rabbit will live. He'll live on. He'll live to see another day. That's for sure. Anyway, that is about it for me. Oh, yeah, here we go. Devil and Husband. Thanks. Good to see you, man. I almost missed your super chat. I'm going to go up here and knock a couple of these out because I was about to sign off without hitting them. And there's another one up here as well from Nikita Abalakin. Thank you, man, for that as well. I'm going to answer yours in a second. Let me hit Devlin's real quick. Hey, yo, Greg, just about 1 week away. Yeah, Devlin informed me that he will also be on the Jericho cruise. I am stoked. Our flight leaves a week from tomorrow. We're going to get into Miami a night early, spend the night, and hop on that boat refreshed as hell. So I hope to have some fun videos for you, fun pictures. I hope to do some sort of a recording or a live stream or something. There will definitely be content on the channel, and especially on Twitter. So right now is about as important as ever to follow me on Twitter because I'll be posting pictures out the ass when I'm on the boat. And let me scroll back up here and answer this $10 one from Nikita. Thank you very much, man. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you, too. You know you're a little bit late, but can't usually catch your live streams. Been listening to you since 2012. Wow. Keep up a great job. Thank you very much, Nikita. I appreciate you stopping by and saying that. Means a lot. Yeah, you've been an 8-year-long fan. In April, I did my first, this coming April will be 10 years since I uploaded my first thing to YouTube, which is just mind-blowing to me. You know, like I said, it's only really been serious probably the last 5 years on the channel where I've really said, oh, okay, this is kind of a serious thing. So, you know, the first 5 years are kind of murky there, but technically I've been on YouTube for a freaking 10 years, which is insane. All right, that's going to be it for me. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Don't forget to join me this coming Monday night for my live Raw watch-along. We're going to watch the entire show and donate all the proceeds to the Australian Red Cross to help all of our friends down under. So you guys be good, take care, and I will catch you on Monday night. Peace.